Hello everyone and welcome to a wonderful game from the first Guwahati International Open Grandmaster Tournament. It's from round 5 and it was suggested by a lot of you for good reasons. And to explain the title a little bit, well, some 2 years ago in 2019 I made a video where I referred to Kantoli Ratnakaran as the Indian Tal, and some 4 years ago, I think it was in 2017, I made a video on Adham Fawzy and his brilliant play, saying that he is, well, he definitely plays like the Egyptian Tal. And here we have a game from 2022 where the two face off against each other, and you can only imagine that the game is extremely interesting as both of them have a very unique style. So that being said, we've explained the title a little bit. Let's check out the game. Ratnakaran has the white pieces and he opens with e4. We have c5 by Fawzy going for the Sicilian defense, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5 going for the Nijmedinov Rosolimo attack. We have g6 now, the Fianchetto variation, one of Carlsen's favorite opening strategies. We have castles and bishop to g7, rook to e1 now, and e5. Putting the pawn nicely in the center, as even if the bishop captures the knight here, the bishop on g7 will be nicely defending the e5 pawn. So here bishop captures, d captures on c6, and now h3. So black has a doubled c pawn, but if you've ever encountered this opening, you know that it's not really a weakness, as white will have some problems executing d4 at any time. So here we have knight to e7, d3, and now black just castles. We have bishop to e3, attacking the pawn here, and b6. So this is all very standard stuff. This position has been reached several times already. We have a4 now, and black strikes with a5. Now a5 is not really necessary. But neither is a4, or better yet, a5 is necessary, but a4 wasn't, because black wasn't really threatening to go b5. Usually you play a4 with white to stop b5, but here this pawn is kind of stuck here guarding the c5 pawn, so maybe you don't have to play a4, but a5 is very much needed, as now white will have problems executing both b4 and d4, and these are kind of the breakthroughs you want to have with white. And there is a game in the database where knight to a3 was played, but here we have knight b to d2, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So let's see how the game continues. Adham opens with starts with a queen to c7, develops the queen. Now the bishop has to be developed and the rooks will be connected, and now queen to b1. Now preparing ideas like c3 and b4, so you have to get this breakthrough in. We have h6 by black, and now rook to a3. So as you can imagine, the position might open up, and then this rook will have a lot to do on the third rank, maybe shifted in the center of the board, maybe shifted all the way to the king side to help out with the attack. And as the bishop is still on g7, you do not want it on a1. So bishop to e6, and now c3, preparing d4 but also b4, and black says, all right, I'm not waiting for that, let's start with f5. Putting pressure on white's center. We have e captures on f5, and now bishop captures on f5. If you wanted to make the game a little bit more interesting, maybe g captures on f5 is also an option, but nothing wrong with bishop captures on f5, and also the queen is on b1, so it makes sense. Here we have g4, chasing the bishop away, bishop to e6, and now striking in the center with the d4. And now c captures on d4 is probably the way you want to play this, but it's kind of tricky because the bishop on e6 is undefended. You have a rook on e1, and if the position opens up, could be a problem for black. So instead, Fawzy starts with e captures on d4, but now we have c captures on d4, and here white misses a great trick, because bishop captures on h6 looks to be a way to completely shatter black's defenses. After, let's say, bishop captures, we're going to capture on e6, and it doesn't look like a position you want to be playing. But okay, it's really an open position, so a lot could still happen. So instead we have c captures on d4, but now bishop to d5, and now you no longer have the same ideas, as the bishop is not a liability on e6, rather you are threatening to win a piece here. But here we have d captures on c5, and now what's the point of this? Why are you hanging a knight on f3? The point is, if bishop captures on f3, as it was played in the game, here we have c captures on b6. And then maybe instead of capturing on f3, we could play something like b5, but it seems like such a great move. Why not just grab the piece and allow white this little, opportunity to create a pass pawn? It's probably not gonna be all that much. So instead, bishop captures on f3, like we've shown, c captures on b6, and also here, for those of you who are maybe just starting your chess journey, whenever your opponent captures a piece, don't capture back automatically. Look for an in-between move. Here you can see that there is a move of a greater importance and that is c captures on b6, as this comes with an attack on the queen. So we usually say this move comes with tempo, and first black has to deal with this, and only then will we continue to what we were planning to do. So queen to d7, and now what do you play here? Well, white really wants to play bishop to c5. You already have a rook on e1, you want to attack that knight one more time, but you also don't want your knight to hang on d2. So here, Ratnakaran plays a really, really brilliant move, and that is b7. You could also play rook to d3, but b7 is just in his style, and now everything completely explodes. So the idea is, if the pawn on b7 is captured, then it's kind of a, well, we can just show it. Queen captures on b7. The idea is bishop to c5. Now the knight is hanging, and once we deal with this, and we've already grabbed a piece, so we don't want to be too greedy, we're going to play bishop to d5. This is an excellent square for our bishop. Rook captures on e7, attacks the queen. Queen captures on b2. And now let's say rook captures on g7, queen captures on g7, and bishop captures on f8. So this is all very nicely done. And after rook captures, you get this position where the material is completely equal. The difference is it's a bishop against a knight, and black's pawn structure is somewhat loose. White's pawn structure is also somewhat loose, but white at least has 3 pawns in front of the king. Black has only 2, but still this bishop controls all of these squares, could be very unpleasant. All in all, with perfect play, should be something like a draw. Let's say rook e3, the game continues, and both players will have chances. But after b7, we have rook 8 to b8. Fawzy wants everything. He's not interested in drawing this game. And now you could go for knight captures on f3, and that's perfectly fine. No one would blame you if you play this. We can even show it. Rook captures on f3, and now bishop to a7. Attacks the rook. Now comes rook captures on b7, rook captures on a3, rook captures on a7. And we get this position where you can see that it's super complicated, but black is still up a piece. But it's not easy to... it's definitely not easy to play this. Of course, we're still going to capture rook captures on f7, rook captures on a7, and now you will get this position where black will really have 2 pieces for a rook. And well, it's a very rich position. So this is definitely in the position. But instead, after rook 8 to b8, we have bishop to c5. Ratnakaran definitely wants more this game. And now what is the plan here? He already gave up a piece. Now he's offering the knight on d2. Let's see what happens. Queen captures on d2. We have rook captures on e7, and now just bishop back to d5. So now, after all is said and done, black is just up a piece, and white has a pass pawn here on b7 that's nicely defended by the rook on e7. And here, could you capture on g6? If you could capture here, that's gonna be great for you. The problem is, if you leave the back rank, then we play queen d1 check, and look at this. You are definitely not surviving this. Let's say king h2, queen h1 check, king g3, rook to f3 with check. We force a rook trade, and now after captures and captures, king h4, we're gonna offer a queen trade here, and now this endgame will be completely winning for us once the queens get off the board. So instead, we have rook to d3 now, attacking the queen, queen to f4, and now, only now do we execute b4. Now we're saying we want you to play a captures on b4, and then we get a5, a6, a7, and we win the game. But it's not that simple. Black plays rook to f7. Now comes rook captures on d5. This is played with absolute precision. Make no mistake, black is still winning here, but he has to also play with surgical precision here. And now the problem is, if you play rook captures on e7, then bishop d6, and you no longer have anything with black. So instead we have c captures on d5. You have to play white's game. B captures on a5 now, and now you have to be very careful. If a6, a7 happens, that's just it. So here rook captures on e7. We're up material, so eliminating more stuff from the board definitely makes sense. Bishop captures on e7. And now bishop to d4, going after that f2 pawn. Here, Fawzy just says, you've got nothing. How do you want to end this? Capturing on g6 doesn't really do anything. If you capture here, I just play king h8, that's game. There's no way to follow up here. So instead, after bishop to d4, we have bishop to h4, guarding the f2 pawn. And now there are several ways to play this. The absolute best one for black is just king h7. You don't have to worry about g6 anymore, and now you continue the game. Everything is still working in your favor, and you just win. If something like a6 happens, we play rook to f8. We simply add more pressure to f2, and you will not be able to survive this with white. However, in the game, the only move that should not have been played was played, and that is g5. And it kind of makes sense because we already discussed queen to g6 many times, and it never really works. But here, it's a move that actually works. Now comes queen to g6, and of course g5 looks great because if you move the bishop, just queen captures, the f pawn is pinned. It's an instant win for black. However, here we have queen to g6 with check. And now you have to play king to f8, and then comes queen captures on h6 with check, king f7. The game continues with black still being slightly better. However, after queen to g6, we have bishop to g7 blocking check, and now the game is completely winning for white, but you have to play it very precisely. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find this winning idea while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on getting away from all the action and concentrating on what really matters, or rather focusing. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is of course pawn to a6. This is the move that wins the game. And now black realizes, whoops, we've completely forgot about the pawn on the queen side. a7 is coming, and there really isn't all that much we can do. So black does the only thing he can. He goes after the h4 bishop here, but now a7 just attacks the rook. Now comes rook to f8. We are saying, okay, you bring a queen into the game. Queen captures on f2, secures us at least a draw, but there is something that white can do to prevent this. It looks like a completely crazy position and might be the one that I choose for the thumbnail. Could choose another one, we'll see what happens. But it seems that if only you can defend the f2 pawn, then you have two connected pass pawns that are ready to become queens. White is completely winning this. So instead of worrying, just queen to e6 check, king to h8, and queen to e3. We offer a queen trade, and next we will bring a queen into the game. So of course black cannot allow this. Queen to b4 is played, now hoping that white brings a queen into the game with pawn to b8, then we can at least give our rook away for the two pass pawns. But of course Ratnakaran plays queen to a8 with a promotion to a queen, pawn to a8 with a promotion to a queen, and now what do you play here? Well, d4, attacking the white queen here, but just queen to f4, and it was in this position on move 36 that Adham Fawzy resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. You cannot capture the queen. Even if you could, that wouldn't really do you all that much good, because, well, white will just bring another queen into the game, but the rook actually cannot move, and the only other option you have is to maybe play king to g8. Nothing else really works, but now you can see that we are covering that b8 square many times, and now we're just gonna bring a queen into the game, our third queen into the game. And now once this capture fest begins, queen captures, queen captures, queen captures, that's just it. White has a queen, black doesn't. We can even bring another one into the game and win the game very easily. So yeah, after queen to f4, Fawzy resigned, and a beautiful victory for Kantoli Ratnakaran in round 5 of this very prestigious tournament. So you can see that it all started with this bishop to c5. He could have gone for that drawish line, but he just wanted more. And it's incredible how this passed pawn not only survived for so long, but that he was also accompanied by the b pawn. And this all was made possible by the advancement of the pawn to b4. Pawn to b4 captures an a5, a7, a6, a7, and the rest is history. So you can see how seemingly out of nothing, black just resigns. So yeah, wonderful game. Thank you once again for recommending it. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Keto Arbuli, and I would like to wish a happy 5-2 birthday to Mike from Bridget. Mike also fell a little bit ill, so I'm wishing you a speedy recovery so you can enjoy the videos and get back to your busy life, I imagine. And I would like to thank Odul Tetik, Nika Čubinice, and Joel Doppelt for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, such as this one and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.